Alright guys, welcome back. Spring Heel Jack Part 2. At line 240, page 4, right side, top column. Okay? So again, page 4, right side, top of that column, line 240 is where I'm starting at. My own grandmother used to say Strawberry Spring means the worst norther of the winter is still on the way, and the longer this lasts, the harder the storm. Folk tales, I said. Never believe a word. I looked at him, but I'm nervous. Are you? He smiled benevolently and stole one of my cigarettes from the open pack of the window ledge. I suspect everyone but me and thee, he said, and then his smile faded a little. And sometimes I wonder about thee. Want to go over the union and shoot some 8-ball? I'll spot you 10. So essentially what his roommate says is I'm not worried about anyone but myself and you, but sometimes you make me a little nervous. Trig prelim next week. I'm going to go settle down with a magic marker on a hot pile of notes. For a long time after he was gone, I could only look out the window. And even after I had opened my book and started in, part of me was still out there, walking in the shadows where something dark was now in charge. That night, Adele Parkins was killed. 6 police cars and 17 college-gate-looking plainclothes men, 8 of them were women imported all the way from Boston, patrolled the campus. But Spring Heel Jack killed her just the same, going unerringly for one of our own. The false Spring, the lying Spring, aided and abetted him. He killed her and left her propped behind the wheel of her 1964 Dodge to be found the next morning, and they found part of her in the back seat and part of her in the trunk. And written in blood on the windshield, this time fact instead of rumor. 2 words, ha, ha. The campus went slightly mad after that. All of us and none of us had known Adele Parkins. She was one of those nameless, harried women who worked the break-back shift in the grinder from 6 to 11 at night, facing hordes of hamburger-happy students on study break from the library across the way. She must have had it relatively easy those last 3 foggy nights of her life. The curfew was being rigidly observed, and after 9, the grinder's only patrons were hungry cops and happy janitors. The empty buildings had improved their habitual bad temper considerably. There's little left to tell. The police, as prone to hysteria as any of us, and driven against the wall, arrested an innocuous homosexual sociology graduate named Hanson Gray, who claimed he could not remember where he had spent several of the lethal evenings. They charged him, arraigned him, and let him go to scamper hurriedly back to his native New Hampshire town after the last unspeakable night of Strawberry Spring, when Marcia Curran was slaughtered on the mall. Why she had been out alone is forever beyond knowing. She was a fat, saddily pretty thing who lived in an apartment in town with 3 other girls. She had slipped on campus as silently and as easily as Spring Heel Jack himself. What brought her? Perhaps her need was deep and ungovernable as her killer's, and just as far beyond her understanding. Maybe a need for one desperate and passionate romance with the warm night, the warm fog, the smell of the sea, and the cold knife. That was on the 23rd. On the 24th, the president of the college announced that spring break would be moved up a week, and we scattered, not joyfully, but like frightened sheep before a storm, leaving the campus empty and haunted by the police and one dark specter. I had my own car on campus, and I took 6 people downstate with me, their luggage crammed in helter-skelter. It wasn't a pleasant ride. For all of us knew, Spring Heel Jack might have been in the car with us. That night, the thermometer dropped 15 degrees, and the whole northern New England area was belted by a shrieking norther that began in sleet and ended in a foot of snow. The usual number of old duffers had heart attacks shoveling it away, and then, like magic, it was April. Clean showers and starry nights. They called it Strawberry Spring. God knows why. It's an evil, lying time that only comes once every 8 or 10 years. Spring Heel Jack left with the fog, and by early June, campus conversation had turned to a series of draft protests and sit-ins at the building where a well-known napalm manufacturer was holding job interviews. By June, the subject of Spring Heel Jack was almost unanimously avoided, at least aloud. I suspect there were many who turned it over and over privately, looking for the one crack in a seamless egg of madness that would make sense of it all. That was the year I graduated, and the next year was the year I married. A good job in a local publishing house. 1971, we had a child, and now he's almost school age. A fine, questing boy with my eyes in her mouth. And then, today's paper. Of course I knew it was here. I knew it yesterday morning when I got up and heard the mysterious sound of snowmelt running down the gutters and smelled the salt tang of the ocean from our front porch 9 miles from the nearest beach. I knew strawberry spring had come again when I started home from work last night and had to turn on my headlights against the mist that was already beginning to creep out of the fields and the hollows, blurring the lines of the buildings and putting fairy halos around the street lamps. This morning's paper says a girl was killed on the New Sharon campus near the Civil War cannons. She was killed last night and found in the melting snowbank. She was not all there. My wife was upset. She wants to know where I was last night. I can't tell her because I don't remember. I remember starting home from work, and I remember putting my headlights on to search my way through the lovely creeping fog, but that's all I remember. I've been thinking about that foggy night when I had a headache, and I walked for air, and I passed all the lovely shadows without shape or substance, and I've been thinking about the trunk of my car, and such an ugly word, trunk, and wondering why in the world I should be afraid to open it. I can hear my wife as I write this in the next room, and she is crying. She thinks I was with another woman last night, and oh dear God, I think so too. So, obviously I can't see your reactions, and I'm hoping you're putting together the fact that your narrator is Spring Heel Jack. Your narrator is the murderer. You didn't know this reading it through the first time. There were a lot of hints. There were so many hints, but you didn't catch them because you didn't know. You might have had an idea, okay? I'll give it to you. You might have thought, like, what if he's the killer? But you didn't know until that last line came, okay? Don't play like you did. Now your job. You need to go through and reread this. And now you need to be finding those hints that Stephen King is dropping to you to let you know that your narrator is in fact Spring Heel Jack. He is the killer and he is the murderer through this entire story. So highlight it. Anything that's foreshadowing, letting you know. Like, for example, oh, he's writing this essay, right? And then all of a sudden, he can't remember where he was at in his essay. Oh, it's probably because he just went out and murdered someone else, right? Like, he was probably out murdering at that point in time. Write these all down. Go back and relook at it. That's the beauty of a short story, is the fact that you can read it once through for enjoyment, and then the next time that you read it, you're kind of piecing those things together. You're looking at the foreshadowing events. You're looking at how the author is rewriting things and kind of leading up to a certain event. Check the reliability of your narrator. Never trust a first-person narrator. Okay. See you guys on the flip side.